Good morning, students. Here once again I am here with the second part on your chapter on the Great Revolt of 1857. In my first part of this chapter, I had discussed about the reason for the revolt of 1857. We are actually still in the regions why the revolt of 1857 took place. Because 1857 revolt was very significant in terms of gaining independence and creating nationalism in India. So, and as several times as I have told, revolt cannot be an overnight phenomenon. Combination of many factors gradually lead to the point where the people want some sort of changes. The change is the revolution, the process sometimes is the revolt. Even today we do that. But today is what? Today being a democratic setup, we have the power in our hand. It is our government. If we are not pleased and happy with the government or some of the government policies, we first of all through our channels, that is through representatives, through strikes, through dharnas, there are many channels like that one. We can register our protest, and if that is not being heard or entertained, then we can change the existing government or incumbent government in the next election, and we can vote them out of power because the power is in our hand. But in a non-democratic setup, there was no possibility of anything of that nature. If you wanted to change the system, you need to revolt, and revolt cannot be the overnight phenomena. It cannot be like that of the anger, similar to the bubble on the water. We had seen the bubble on the water, which seems like very swelling, but burst at the first contact. If your anger is very short-lived and very volatile, then you can go for any other things, but you cannot revolt against the system. It has to be deep-rooted. It has to be sustainable, it has to be reasoned with many factors, and then finally you can go for the change of the system, you can revolt against the authority. Okay? And if the authority is the Britishers, it cannot be a child's play. However, we are trying to trace out those reasons why the people of India, all of us became hostile to the British rule in the year 1857. And the answer to this question comes that it was nothing all of us. There was nothing called all of a certain sort of a thing. Things were grooming and growing up over the years. Discontentment and unhappiness was somewhere shown in different British policies. In 1857, it became mature enough to be harvested. That is, the 1857 result was the end point of many discontentment, unhappiness, dissatisfaction against the or resentment against the British policies, of which one we have studied that the agricultural policy of the Britisher made the peasants and farmers hostile and upset to the British rule. Permanent settlement was also the permanent settlement system was being somewhere cancelled or replaced by Mahalwadi system or Rayatwari system. Some big landlords also felt insecure as their landlordship was either challenged or dismissed. Now some religious factors to the revolt of 1857 that we are going to discuss today. Religion, always minded, religion is an emotional issue. And when emotion dominates, the intelligence subdues. Intelligence, brain, always is based on logic. It follows certain processes that you may call it logical, reasoned or scientific, which is based on your experimentation, then observation, and then you can go and draw some inference or conclusion and then act accordingly according to those experiments and observations. So that is what very scientific, that is where the brain is applied. You never jump onto the conclusion if you are using your intelligence in order to solve certain challenges in your life. But if you are using your emotion, then all the reason, logic has been kept aside, and you are only been thinking in one solitary way that somebody is either doing good to your emotions or bad to your emotions. There is no middle point. Okay? Religion is one among those issues. What happened? That Britishers had, at the request of many Indians, made certain policies that actually reformed the Indian religion. For example, taking that religion called Hinduism. It is a fantastic religion. There is no other second thought over it. But there were some handful of people who were called priests or Brahmins who thought that they are in charge of this one, and they interpreted in such a way that actually defiled and corrupted the very tenets or idea or philosophy of the religion. What was that? As a result, in the name of religion, many superstitious practices started being implemented. Okay, for example, the much inhuman practice of untouchability, which was actually the born child of the caste system. And caste system is somewhere or had somewhere the sanction of the religion. It is being put forward that the idea, there are many ideas regarding that one. One among them is that the world has been created by Lord Brahma, okay, as per the Hindu philosophy, that we call actually the Trinity God, that is Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, okay, or Trimurti you would have heard about, okay. So this is what the God means, one who has generated the God, the world, that is created, generated here means created the world, and the creator of the world as per the Hindu religion or Hindu philosophy is that Lord Brahma. Second is operator, one who is looking after, operating the world, that is Vishnu. And third is the destroyer of the world, that is what we call Lord Shiva. So Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, that is the Trinity God, which is this particular philosophy and idea has been carried forward in other religions that we have been calling them the God. Actually, it is the basic philosophy here. Up to here, it seems to be very precise, very original, very fine. This interpretation has no harm. Others are believing or not, whether you believe it or not, that is all that the science may challenge all these things. These are all debatable issues, but I have already told in the beginning that when emotion surges, all that intelligence are been kept aside. It is all papered. Now, as per this creator philosophy of Lord Brahma, now the caste system that the idea was given, Brahmin was born out or came out of the mouth of Lord Brahma, and the main function of the mouth is to speak, to talk, to read and write. So that is why the reading, writing of the Vedas, chanting of the prayers and mantras were assigned to the Brahmins. Came out of the arms of Brahma was the Kshatriyas. I'm trying to explain it that how these things got corrupted later on, because up to here is no harm whatsoever. Okay. So Kshatriyas, and what is the function of the arm? It is actually the symbol of the strength in your body. Okay. You would have been seen or sometimes displayed also while you have been growing up as a children. That muscles दिखाए. Okay. So that is what somewhere you have been thinking, that this is the symbol of the strength in the body, and everything that was connected to the strength. So their main function was that protecting the society and others from getting chati. Those who were protecting others from getting chati or damage is called Kshatriyas. Okay. So the main philosophy of the strength is not to exploit the weak, rather to protect the weak. Okay. You see how much a sublime and pious holy philosophy, which is very scientific, that was the tenet of the Hinduism. Okay. Now from the thighs of the Brahma came out the Vaishyas. And what is the main function of the thighs is to create movement or make the movement in the body possible, that with the help of the thighs our body has been moving, and as such they were been assigned with the task of the traders. Most of the traders, the businessmen in the past or even today are trading is actually based on the idea of moving far away. So you cannot sit at a place and make your business, you have to move from place to place, and because the thighs supported the movement, so that is why whatever came out of the thighs actually has been. So you see all these things actually, and from the feet of Brahma came out who was the Shudras, and here come, because the feet is the lowest part of the body, so they were considered as the lowest part of the social strata, and because the function of the feet is to support the entire body, so that is why it was to support the entire. So this is, now from here, this interpretation has some selfish motives, okay? And when the things started going on like, so all those tasks or the duties that were being considered as menial or low, or very low category, like that of scavengers, sweepers, clearing the dead or something like that, okay? So they were the Shudras and they were termed as untouchables. So even there, so there were many corrupt practices started coming on, and many corruptions were there. But then these things were being so deep rooted that anybody who were talking against them in those days were being considered as the villain, no matter who that anybody was. They were literally ostracized, they were boycotted by the society and the community. And even today you see, there are many things even today of the old practice of the caste system, which is now after independence constitutionally banned. We have one of the fundamental rights of the right to equality, but can you say with certainty that in practice that untouchability is not being practiced today? Yes, it is even in some form present in our society. Okay? So this is what, have you ever seen that any Brahmin or any Kshatriyas cleaning the drain or something like that, or doing the work of a sweeper or the scavenger? Have you seen or have you heard anywhere? Answer is a big no. So that does not mean that they have been given the special training or done some sort of a management course in order to clean the drain and etc. But this is what the hangover of the old West practice. Even that intercaste marriages are somewhere considered as not good in a society, especially if the society is a rural conservative society. Because in those days that they had a great caste restrictions, intercaste dining, combining and having the line with the other caste people were all. So these were the certain things that were hampering the development of Indian society. So some Indians who were enlightened one, who were known as today the social reformers, they actually put forward this task that unless the Indian society is not improved, or these superstitions or these sort of a corrupt practices are not been removed from the society, then it is impossible for everybody to excel further. India being the land of a golden bird, is rich in many resources. We are lagging behind in the development is because of illiteracy and because of that closed thoughts. But then who could remove them? The removal actually can come out of the two ways. Any removal, any practices. For example, we should not cut the tree. That is a moral science lecture. Should word is actually denoting the moral science. Why? Because trees are also living things and they would have also been feeling pain and some sort of a thing. So that is why we should avoid cutting the trees. We should not cut the tree simply because we are in fact creating the damage in the environment. So there are many reasons, moral and logical reasons given for not cutting the trees. Moral science lecture is on this. If we are emotional enough and intelligent enough to understand this moral science lecture, fine, stop cutting the trees. Otherwise, you need to make the law legally. You need to make legally bound the people, that those who will found cutting the trees will be held guilty and will be punished in accordance with the law. So for act short of a thing, the legislation was been passed, and who is passing legislation is the government. So you see that some of those religious related malpractices where we first of all, one among another very important was the system of sati. As per this system, because child marriage was very, common in those days, and sometimes we have many examples in the history that even the children, when the children were born, their marriages were been solemnized by their parents. And because in those days, especially if the child was a girl child, the situation was very worse, because becoming widow was very much on the card. And once they become widow, that is, there were many inhuman, torturous treatment were being given. In those days, the lifestyle of the people was, the medical facilities were almost negligible. Mortality rate was very much high. Life expectancy rate was very much high. Today you see there are many deadly diseases of the past, like that of a plague, diarrhea, etc. are today a curable disease. But in those days, if this sort of a thing happened to somebody, the entire village used to be perished and finished. Okay. So these are plus that the food related things, the items, all there were many things that were collectively responsible for the early deaths of human beings in those days. So life expectancy was very small, very little, very low. And if somebody was being dying who were likely to die, so by the time, suppose you have taken the birth, you are literally 1 or 2 months old, and you have been tied into a wedlock, your marriage was been solemnized by somebody else, okay, with somebody else. But then by the time you attained your puberty or you became adult, you realize that one of your partners has been lost. If the partner was a female lost, then the male partner would have given the permission to remarry somewhere. But the girl child could not do that one, and they were being made to sit onto the pyre of her. Pyre is, that is, platform where the dead bodies are burnt, P-Y-R-E. Cheetah जिसको हिंदी में कहते हैं. They were forced to sit on the pyre of her deceased husband, and they were being burnt alive. And the philosophy was that by doing that, she is also been going to the heaven. So it was a sort of a ladder to the heaven. Okay. This is today, from today's viewpoint, if you analyze, this is a broad daylight murder. Nobody can permit this one. It is legally also banned. But somebody had to take, because everybody was been believing in that one. Once the belief was deep rooted, you were attaching it with that of the religion, and anything that has been attached to the religion is an emotional matter, either out of fear or favor or reverence or respect or practices or ritual. You have to practice it. Say for example, sacrificing the innocent animal to please gods and goddesses. Even today, अगर तुम IAS ऑफिसर बन गए, बहुत तेज हो गए, तो चलो भाई आज हम काली माता को पाठा चढ़ाते हैं, ठीक है? What is there a connection? Is your intelligence says like that? The answer is big no, but the emotion is telling it is very much correct. And even if I am giving the lecture before you, the very next moment today, tomorrow I may do the same thing. Okay, so this is what I am trying to give you the example of the religion, the emotional matter. What happened when these legislations were being made? When today the sati system has been banned, legally banned, and it was for the first time in 1828 when Lord William Bentinck was the Governor General of India at the initiative of Raja Ram Mohan Roy. So you see the one Indian initiated, because he himself found his sister-in-law was being sat into the fire on the pyre of that husband. So he felt very upset. He was actually coming from a high Brahmin family. Okay, but then he was not in consulting agreement with that system of sati. So he initiated, and at his initiation, that contemporary Governor General passed the legislation, and finally the sati was banned. Once sati was banned, what happened? The reaction you see, that Britishers are here for what? For corrupting our religion and spreading Christianity. They started intervening, and that is what the low level of literacy. So another emotional sections, there are many such things. For example, another one was that introduction of railway in 1853. And as I've just told, that Indian society was being deeply divided into the caste. Forget about that upper caste people. It was also one of the practices that if the Shudras or untouchables or the people belong to the lower caste were walking on the road, they had to tie a drum around their neck, and they had to beat the drum so that the sound of the drum would be heard by the upper caste people, especially Brahmins. If they are wanting to come, they will stay inside the home, because by just seeing the shadow or touching the shadow of these Shudras, their religion would get corrupted. There were many inhuman practices. They cannot draw the water from the common well, which happened to be 1 or 2 wells in the entire of the villages. They had to go and walk these miles and miles in order to fetch the water, because once the water is being touched by these people, the water would also get polluted. So their lives were being overall very, very repercussive, very, very difficult. Okay, almost impossible to survive. So when certain legislation was being done in the name of humanities, it is very logical. But then these orthodox Indians thought it is an attack on their religion, so they became hostile to the British policies of this. So this emotionally also, in 1853 railway introduced in the railway compartment, you have to sit together if you want to, because, and here the caste system was the distance. I cannot sit and have the friendship with the member of the other caste. So if all these things would be there, so they thought, some conservative Indians thought that the Britishers deliberately introduced railway in order to pollute the religion of the Indians. So this was an attack on the Indian religion. So this all plus there were that the Muslims in India had to keep the beard. That is one of, they have to put on the face cap on their head. In the Sikh religion, the people have to wear that turban. And when the soldiers were being appointed or recruited during the British period, we know that when the military has a discipline, uniform discipline. So if we have made certain regulations that I need only, suppose a particular heighted people, that there need to be a clean beard, clean shaved, no turban, there had to be the P cap of the army cap. So you have to replace your face cap with that of the army cap. You have to replace your turban with that of the army cap if you want to get appointed into the, you see, some of these things are religious things. If the Sikh regiment is there, they are allowed to put on their turban even today. Okay, so because that is, but the Britishers did not do like that. As a result, so people from different religious groups found is that it was their deliberate attempt to define and pollute the religion of India and spread Christianity in India, because coincidentally at that point of time the Christian missionaries were opening up the schools and giving the alms and donations and support to the poor Indians or the tribals in particular, and telling and appealing them to convert themselves into Christianity if they wanted to get the advantage of all these things. Okay, so these all had become the religious cause. So religiously means sentimentally, also you were upset with the Britishers, and practically, realistically, that agricultural policy made the large section of the Indians hostile to the Britishers. But then, so the anger was there, frustration was there, still you were taking no action. Another section was the ruling class, the Indian princely states. How much time left? Another was the British policies towards the princely states. And as I have told, that many common people are against the system that hardly matters to the system. But some uncommon, extraordinary, powerful, resourceful person, a few handful of such people, are if against you, then you have to think twice before contemplating the another action. What happened here, that Indian princely houses who were very friendly to the Britishers also became hostile to the Britishers because of certain British policies. One among them was the doctrine of lapse. Another was the subsidiary alliance. The mastermind behind all these things, doctrine of Lord Dalhousie. This was Lord Wellesley. All these people, according to this doctrine of lapse, what happened, as the word lapse itself suggesting, doctrine is philosophy idea, is that if any princely house of the princely state in India, Jhansi for example had like that, did not have their own natural born successor, heir to the heir means successor, Uttaradhikari, then up to this present generation you can continue to rule, but the next generation, because you don't have the original heir, the natural born heir to the throne, your kingdom would lapse. It will be over and will be passed into the British and will be annexed into the British Empire. And till then, there was the practice, it was all internal matter. Dynastic succession is all internal matter. If my people, my subjects, praja jisko kehte hain, subject here means praja, citizen, people, are happy with me. Suppose in that court, in that Raj Darbar, I had called a session and made somebody as my successor. And if I have declared my subject is agreed, no external power has any right to say yes or no to that one. It is all sovereign kingdom. But that sovereignty was challenged here. The objection, if coming from within. Objection cannot come from outside. Here what happened, that the Gangadhar, you have heard about that story or read about that one, has not the original heir. Okay, he don't have the, but he has adopted somebody as his son, but that adopted son was not the clause of that doctrine of lapse. So the Britishers claimed after that the kingdom would pass into the hands, which Rani Lakshmibai objected very strongly. She had to fight severely. She fought also very bravely, but ultimate end that eventually she attained the martyrdom while fighting, and then finally her kingdom also passed into the hands of the. So this sort of the subsidiary alliance was what? That a treaty was to be made, alliance means agreement. Okay, that no Indian houses, no Indian princely kingdom will be keeping their own military. Britishers told that we would be supplying you the military. You cannot keep the military on your own. We will be providing you because they had already made up huge soldiers in the British army in order to wage many wars with the princely states. So now who will look after them? Who will bear the expenses of them? So that is what they have told the some princely states to sign an agreement. You need to take care of the army. This army will protect you from the another. Suppose because there were many hostility and enmity and a frequent war by the neighboring kingdoms, so another neighboring kingdom was been attacking. Say for example, Awadh, the Bengal was attacking over Awadh. So Awadh was always in a vulnerable position in order to protect itself from the attacks of Bengal. Okay, so such a type of the things were very common. So the Awadh thought what? Why not to take that support of the British army, and they signed the subsidiary alliance. In that clause, because now you see the further clause, second was that you cannot keep your army. So what you have done, if a ruler is not keeping the army is dependent now. Second, because I have given you the support, you need to bear the entire expenses of my soldier. So by doing that, Britishers were very cunning and clever. What happened? The entire expenses of their army was borne by the local kingdom. Third, because I had given you this army for your protection, so I am ready to protect you against the attack of your neighboring kingdom. So in return, you need to pay me the fees or compensation, and that fees were very, very high. And in case if you could not give me the fees, which was very natural and obvious because the rent was very high, the demand was very high, in that case what happened? Your kingdom would pass into my kingdom, into the British Empire. So it was this way or that way, all these people's kingdom, most of them, so somebody were being directly attacked and forcefully allowed to surrender their kingdom. Some were being forced to pass to sign this agreement. Somebody fought, but then ultimate end was that their kingdom passed into the British Empire, and finally this princely house also became hostile to the. So everybody, you see the common man, the landlord, that emotionally the Indians became upset, and now the princely states also were. But then the entire, the dry grass and the husk was there, everything was well laid down. But you need to put the fire on it. Who will put the fire? That was the big question. And that is the immediate thing that was being done by Mangal Pandey. Again, that I will be discussing in detail in the next class, though the revolt was not successful, but what were the impact of the revolt of 1857 in my conclusive episode. I will be explaining all these things. Till then, take very good care of yourself.